Whether you're leading for the first time, leading through change, or learning to lead all over again, this space is for you. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk from those who've led through challenges, adapted under pressure, and thrived in the face of change. Welcome to Command to Corporate, where leadership isn't just taught, it's lived. Let's get to work.
Hi, welcome back, everybody, to Command to Corporate. We're your hosts, LP and T. T, how are you doing? First of all, welcome back, T. T took a nice vacation to where?
Columbia,
Colombia.
my future retirement home.
I
uh,
was talking to somebody about a buddy of mine that having traveled, I
mhm,
think when you travel, visiting the different countries, you just realize, there are for one expats in these
mhm.
places retiring and living, and that there's places that you can go live where your money will go so much further,
Yes,
such a
sir.
better quality of life. And I take it
Yes, sir.
Colombia is one of them.
Yes, absolutely. And so, actually, an old college friend of mine is down there. He's living there. He's been retired for 7 years. He didn't retire from the army. He got out after 5 years, and then did another career, and he retired out of that. I tell you what, it's pretty convincing when you see somebody else, like your friend, doing it and thriving, and you're like, well, man, okay, this is possible. Like it's all of a sudden all the big challenges and the things that you thought might be impossible are like, oh, it's not a big deal, you know? So
Yeah.
it was a very good experience going down there, just kind of see how others have done it and kind of think through how I can do it. So it was good. Yeah.
That's good, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
came back to, I guess decent weather. What was the weather like down there? Was it warm?
So it was a little bit chilly in Bogota, but it was
Mm.
warmer in Medellin. And
Uh,
so yeah, it's very kind of very different, but it was depends what you like, you know. I don't mind a little chilliness, so I was happy.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I come back here, it was a lot colder, so that's crazy to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. We definitely got some chilly weather.
Yeah.
So, all right. All right. Well, glad you enjoyed your vacation.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Good to be back.
All right. So, today's episode, we're talking about inclusive leadership and leading diverse teams.
Hmm.
And we're going to kick it right off. So, what's the difference between diversity and inclusion? And I guess I'll keep us honest, go by the book. So,
Yeah.
diversity is the presence of differences in a group, such
Hmm.
as race, gender, and age, while inclusion is about creating an environment where these differences are welcome and everyone feels valued and respected.
I like it. That sounds spot on.
I mean, straight to the point. Now I know
Actually,
in the real quick in current political climate, the whole idea of, DEI and that
hmm
kind of thing.
yep.
But separate of that, I do think it's beneficial. So not targeting the hire based on that per se is embracing that within a team, not having it all look one way, which
Yeah.
plenty of people may experience going to a new job, and you might say to yourself, well, I don't see many people that look like me, whatever that is, that whatever me
Mm.
looks like to them, whether it's race, age, gender, it could be anything. um, so sometimes even being in that space, it can make it difficult for people to feel included because
Yes.
there is such a difference. And it's like,
Yes.
should I speak up? If I do speak up, will it be valued and respected? Am I going to be, fit the stereotype, oh, you're one of those, or some kind of
Hmm.
stuff like that? So even just the lack of diversity can make it someone not feel included, though that may not be a thing, or not even want to speak up.
Oh, you're 100%. I mean, the team I'm on right now, I'm the oldest person on the team, you know? It's a lot of young adults. When I mean, okay, when I say young, I mean like early 30s, you know,
Yeah.
maybe to mid 30s.
Mm.
But like it is a little strange, you know, being the oldest person on the team. But it's good. I definitely have to watch what I say in the sense that, you know, like old school thoughts and behaviors may come out sometimes. You kind of just speak my mind. Maybe others won't appreciate it, or maybe I don't want to come across as a know-it-all, so I let people kind of do their thing and find out and learn that way, because you don't want to go telling people like, this is how you should do it, this is how you should do that, because I've done it that way. And I think what I've realized that people need to make their own mistakes and learn that way.
Yeah.
So I think that the only thing that definition was missing, in my opinion, is experience and backgrounds.
Mm,
That diversity and experience, backgrounds, and personality traits are huge, I think.
very true.
So that's the only thing I would add to it.
Okay, I agree with that. That makes perfect sense. Let me get myself a little bit something in the dark. I'm not. All right, there we go.
There you go.
All right. So why do inclusive teams outperform others?
So
And a note I
I
made. Go
go
ahead.
ahead, sir.
Go ahead, T.
No, no, no.
All right, I can
You
go with
start.
the note. So inclusive teams outperform others because they leverage a wider range of skills, to your point, experiences,
Hmm.
perspectives, which leads to which could lead to better decision making,
Absolutely.
increased innovation, and greater employee retention if
Yep.
it's all valued and respected and everyone has the time to shine, so to speak.
Yep. Yeah. Spot on. Nothing really to add to
I
that.
mean, yeah, because at the end of the day, I think this made me think about when I hear people saying like being their authentic self, where
Mm.
you can speak
Mm.
up, which depending on the leader, their experience, their background, maybe aspects of their diversity that could be welcomed or could not be welcomed.
Mm.
It's because you see a lot of influencers and people saying you should be allowed to be your authentic self, and sometimes you have to work up to it.
That's true.
It's not something that you can just do out the gate, because it could be received wrong.
Yes.
So it's like depending on what it means to be your authentic self. Like if you're
Hmm.
very vocal and maybe have a lot of energy behind when you speak and things like that, you speak your
Yes.
mind. It,
Yes.
it, it could be too abrupt for some to handle,
Yes.
and they look at it in a negative light, and now you're like looking for another job. This is not a fit for you. So I think it's
Yes.
one of those things where it has to be where leaders have to say, let me, I understand, I understand the passion and energy, maybe helping
Hmm.
you dial it down, but at the same time, you got to read the room yourself as an
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And while you're speaking, like, something popped in my head right now. It's I'm like, go back to my age maybe, but like I like getting on the phone and talking to people, right? But these younger generations, once the phone rings, they drop that phone like hot potato. They're like, "Oh, who's calling me? Why are they calling me? Why didn't they texting me?" So it's interesting to see that that's something I had to be mindful, and that like people don't like to be called, and
individual.
they hate it. Like you get ignored, but like I send you a message immediately and you respond. Like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It's funny, but yeah, that's yeah, being your authentic self is hard sometimes, and sometimes you may have to modify that because others are not comfortable around it. So, which is fine.
Yeah, or you gotta, play the game, so to
Hmm.
speak, until you can
Hmm.
get to the point or level where you can be.
True, you're
Because I
right.
see when you got people that are high up, have made a name for themselves, and now they're
Yes,
at the point where they can
yes.
say and be however they want, and they might have conferences where they'll say this to people. And if you're not being able to be your authentic self, you need to find somewhere. You need to go somewhere else. But at the same time, people need a job.
Yeah.
You got to work. You got to stay employed. You got bills to pay. So
Hmm.
it's like while that sounds great, at the same time, you don't want to jump around.
Hmm.
You wait until you're at that point where you're like, okay, now I know I can, because I'm at a level where there's not much above me. and it's respected, and it's,
Yeah.
it's okay that, because it is inclusive, and that diversity is appreciated,
Hmm.
that experience, that perspective, I want to hear it, I want that, that's what we need on this team. Then
Hmm.
it's like the gates are open, let it flow.
True. And so originally when you said that, I thought of something slightly different.
Mhm.
I think once you've earned the trust of those around you, then you could be your authentic self. Maybe that's kind of what it is, right? Because people now know you and understand you and know where you're coming from and they trust you. Like, oh, this, Larry is a really genuine person.
Yeah,
So when he see his other, his genuine self or his personality come out sometimes, you're like, oh, that's Larry. He's cool. Like he doesn't mean any harm by anything. Where something you may have done prior when you first got to a team, people were like shocked, maybe. So
yeah,
I think earning people's trust also earns you kind of a little cachet, to say, oh, it's Larry. Like that's cool. I didn't know he did that. Or personality quirks come out, right? It's kind of
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And that's our one of our keywords, trust. I think
Yeah.
throughout the whole time that we've been doing this podcast, trust keeps popping up. So
Yeah.
definitely a key. I don't know how you would describe it. That's part of everything
A
you do as a
pillar
leader.
of leadership. Yeah.
Yeah, truly, yes.
Mm.
Okay, so what behaviors signal inclusivity? Hopefully, I'm saying that right. From leaders. What behaviors signal inclusivity from leaders? And so we have a couple:
Hmm.
active listening, for sure;
Oh, good.
empathy,
Yeah.
what you just mentioned about open communication, transparency; equitable opportunities, and valuing diverse perspectives. As a few, those are a few behaviors. There could be definitely more. And if anything comes to mind, T, please shout it out. But I can see how, to me, it takes a very good leader to really be impartial, not have any favoritism, really look to pull people in based on those behaviors and many more, where the team also can see that. Like it's not one sided, you're really trying to, you know, pull everyone in to the fold from an
Mm.
inclusive standpoint.
Yeah. I think it's one example in a meeting, where you don't let one person take over the conversation. You create space for others to talk, or you actually just kind of ask people to say something, contribute.
Yeah.
Um, and I gotta give credit where credit's due. So there's a company that I worked for, uh, huge, 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 huge company.
Hmm.
They actually hired hearing impaired employees. This is in a
Oh,
warehouse environment, right?
wow.
And they would have American Sign Language translators walking with this hearing impaired employee, and they would have a service that would do like kind of like a Zoom for the hearing impaired, so that way you could talk to the person online, and they'll sign what you're trying to say to the hearing impaired employee. So
Oh,
that
wow.
is the ultimate, leadership of like say, yeah, inclusion and diversity are very important to me. I'm not
Yeah.
going to shy away from hearing impaired. I am going to put my, money towards this to tell you how serious I am. And they were even kind of looking at hiring the visually impaired employees.
Wow. I
Impressive,
wonder how that has worked out. Like, what would they have had them do?
Yeah, so they would have some sort of like tapes or markings on the ground
Uh
where
huh.
some sort of like machine would read it and understand where they're going or something. I'm not really sure exactly, but yeah, I mean just the fact that they were looking to do that and to see how they could overcome some of those challenges is really
That's
impressive.
amazing. Yeah. To even to
So,
seek that out and to even think about that as a
hmm
company and say, how can we, you know, give back and include this group into what we do is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really a cool thing.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's like like even when we were in the army, maybe like when we were creating teams for sports day of PPT or something like that. You always want to include those that are just like that may not be the best athletes, so you get them
Oh yeah,
included somehow, some
yeah,
way. Have them participate and not just sit by the sideline.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Okay,
I think those are some outward things. Like you just gotta include people, man. It
yeah,
sounds easy, but it's difficult sometimes.
yeah. I mean, very true. So we're gonna shift gears slightly. How do
Mhm.
you handle unconscious bias as a
Mm,
leader? You want me to keep
yeah.
us honest?
Honesty is probably a key word for that one. Yeah.
True. So to handle unconscious bias as a leader, acknowledge your own biases, which can be a
Yes.
challenge in itself.
Hmm. Hmm.
Educate yourself and implement structured processes in decision making, like standardizing interviews or hiring
Hmm.
panels. Additionally, foster an inclusive culture by seeking diverse perspectives, encouraging open feedback, and actively interrupting bias in daily interactions and systems. And I think this could be very well. Let me take that back. I guess I could see, like in the military, I could say I saw favoritism in the military where people just gravitated, they connected, they're all. So then I could see someone being like putting a squad leader or given additional tasks, and you don't want to do that, period. But I could see that.
Mm,
I think in the civilian side, not only do I have seen the favoritism, but the unconscious bias as well. I've seen it
yeah.
where that's more than I ever experienced in the military ever. Um, and I've seen the negative side of that where people just they know that they have an unconscious bias and it just continues on. Like it's the way it is. Where you see certain people are getting the opportunities where others are not, even though they are on an even playing field. And as soon as you say the wrong thing, like it may say, oh, yes, I value diverse perspective. But as soon as you share an unpopular opinion,
Uh,
oh,
yeah.
now you're on my, you know, so to speak, shit list because I lack the professional maturity or leadership maturity to say, okay, I get you, I hear you, and not take it personally, and read between lines that aren't there. And I just see it just turn into a whole big thing where those unconscious bias just rise to the top and they're not truly doing anything about it. They're not acknowledging, they could acknowledge it and say, well, I know I do. But it's like, how do you change it? How do you actively say, I'm not going to be that person?
I think people don't change. Like people don't want to
Play
change
it simple,
unless
but they don't.
let's
Unless
be
you want,
honest.
unless you want to, right?
Right, exactly. Well, like in the army, you're forced to, you know,
True,
and
true,
in the sense that like you have mandatory training, right? Like all
true.
the stuff, it's like I don't want to do this, but you sit there, you do it, and you actually, despite your not yours, that's despite my crappy attitude sitting through training, I still walk away with some knowledge, right?
Yeah,
And so one, I think you have to know that bias exists. But in order to know that, you have to do some work and self reflection. And if you don't think there's anything wrong with you, you're not going to do that.
no,
Unless somebody tells you, or you're forced to do some self reflection.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, in the regular world, you're not really forced to. Until somebody kind of maybe brings up an HR complaint, and you're like, oh yeah, HR is telling me I have this problem. So let me fix it or do something about it. That's the only time you're probably
yeah,
forced to do something about it.
yeah. Or sometimes you're in a space, depending on where you are, where you may not have an outlet to go to. Like it's
Mm,
like no one to talk, like there's not an HR to go to. Or maybe the
mm.
situation could be like where you're at a point where it's like, I don't feel comfortable going here, maybe because of certain
As an
connections to
employee.
people as an employee.
Mm.
Like, like let's say, for example, I feel that my leader has an unconscious bias, but that leader
Oh,
is friends or perceived friends with like maybe the head of HR or vice versa.
yeah,
And so
true,
you're like, well, if I go, I know they're going to say something. I know it's not going to stay
true. Yeah,
confidential. I know boundaries are going to get crossed and lines are going to get crossed. So what do I do? And then you're kind of in this situation where, do you go all the way to the top? Do you ride it out? Do you seek, what do you, and that's even a, like, is that even appropriate? Do I go that high,
yeah.
because, you know, you just, sometimes you just look at it as like, I don't want any blowback. I don't
Oh,
want
yeah.
any
It's legit concern.
retaliation, like
Hmm.
microaggression, where
Hmm.
instead of a leader saying, you know what, I was wrong, my bad, I didn't see it. Thanks for bringing. I mean, you did the right thing. You took it up. Unfortunately, I had to go that route. Unfortunately, I couldn't see it. I'm gonna do better, and just that's it, and keep moving. Versus,
Mm,
oh, oh, you made me look bad. Oh, okay, I got something for you. You're not going to directly do it, but they won't have an. There will be no equitable opportunity for that person. There
yeah.
won't be. You may not call on them to get their perspective. You won't have any empathy for them. It's just like I'm going to keep pushing you until you're in the basement, and then and you want to quit.
I like that reference.
So it's unfortunate. It's like you got to really, I mean, any leaders listening in or soon to be leaders, it's like how do you remove that? Like really looking at the behaviors that celebrate, for lack of better words, inclusivity. Where we want to value everyone. And I think
Yeah.
that leads into you were mentioning earlier. How can leaders ensure all voices are heard? It's really like if you're in a small group meeting, large group meeting, not letting that one person dominate,
Hmm.
getting everyone an opportunity to share, calling on someone, because some people may not want to in front of big groups um, say anything. And just a side note, one thing I tell people that, like, for example, don't want to speak in the crowds, like maybe write it down, read from your paper, and then be quiet. That way at
Mm.
least you put it out there versus like, well, let me freestyle and just try to raise my hand. I get nervous. Just read
Oh,
from your
yeah.
just read the line that you wrote down,
Yeah.
and then that's
True.
it.
That's good. That's good
And just
advice.
keep doing that until the point where you're finally comfortable enough. You see the crowd, you're reading the room, it's okay, and then speak up. So take advantage when you get called on. Have something written down. Shit.
True. To go back just a little bit, um, just because there's something that I've had to learn the hard way, right? If you want to signal that everybody's included and you want to display inclusive behavior, say what you're trying to do. Do not act a certain way and assume people understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? It's like, be blunt. It's like, hey, on our team, I want to make sure everybody's voice is heard. And this is kind
Yes.
of how we're going to do it, right? Because now people are like, oh, it's black and white, you know? And if you just kind of start calling on people that are quiet, people may take that the wrong way. And it's like, oh, why is he picking
True.
on me?
True.
So
Very true.
always be mindful, be direct, kind of what your intent is.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Mm. Sorry.
So, what challenges arise when leading highly diverse teams? What is a team?
Oh, no, I mean, there's a lot of challenges. You got different personalities, different backgrounds, and you got some strong personalities, you got quiet people, and sometimes nobody agrees on anything. It's a challenge.
Cultures,
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah. And I think, you know, what could, one of the biggest challenges could be the leader themselves.
Oh.
Because, we talked about it, offline. Like sometimes a leader may come from a culture where things are a certain way,
Mm.
the communication's a certain way.
Mm.
You think about different cultures around the world and how people
Oh.
operate in business settings.
Yeah.
So in one culture, me speaking up and voicing my opinion may be
Mm.
received just fine, where another would be like, oh, you don't do that. And it's like, and though we're in the, you know, US and melting pot of all of this, if
Mm.
someone is coming from a place where you just don't do that, you don't ask questions, you're told, who was you told and move out, then how does that person truly embrace uh, diverse perspectives and letting voices be heard and truly mean it? Where it's like, well, at the end of the day, I'm gonna do what I want to do, where or you don't look at it as, yes, you keep challenging me, so to speak, because you may be expressing, and I start to take that in a negative way. As long, and
Mm.
if you're constructive and you're just like, hey, I just want to give a different perspective. What do you think? And maybe this happens all the time. At the end of the day, the boss is the boss. They can, say it. But if you're actually asking people what you think, and someone just or multiple people say, well, we think opposite, a different perspective. Okay, that's great. Maybe you have the liberty of factoring it in, maybe you don't, but not to take offense to it when you're challenged.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
if it's in a structured, tactful, respectful way, well, that's what I want. I want you to
Mm.
share it because maybe I did not consider something. Maybe I didn't
True.
think about our perspectives. You're shedding some light. Maybe it's not this time, but maybe next time I do need to consider them.
That's fair. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way, honestly, but that's pretty good.
So, how
So,
did the military? Oh, go ahead. You got something.
yeah, just real quick, so I like your talking point about cultures. It's like, the first time like you deploy to the Middle East and like work with Iraqis or Kuwaitis or just Arabs in general,
Mhm.
you realize they never say no to anything, you know? And so they'll say inshallah,
Yeah.
which is really, if you didn't know, that really means no. But like that's
Yeah.
the thing about different cultures. It's sometimes it creates miscommunication, but as long as you understand it eventually, I think it kind of works out. But that's kind of one example of different cultures. Yeah. Oh my God. And then the other thing is like you have people from different backgrounds. Maybe on your team goes back to different experiences, right?
Hmm.
I had a captain in one of my units who who had very good experience, right? She came from, previously working for a full bird or a one-star general,
Hmm.
and she would voice her opinion. Very strong personality. She would voice her opinion of like, this is how we should do this. This is kind of, she's reflecting back on her experience of what the general wanted or what the full bird colonel wanted, and she would
Hmm.
just kind of say, this is the way it needs to be. It should be. The problem is maybe that worked for the general. But like on our team, it was not received very well, right? So
Hmm.
her diverse her background of different experiences really like isolated her because people are like, stop talking down to us, stop treating us like
Oh,
we don't know what we're doing, because like she thinks she's helping. She's like, this is how general level wants to see this information, right? I'm like, which is great, but we're not briefing a general. We are like doing stuff like in house,
yeah.
and so that diverse background sometimes is not received well because it's just maybe poor timing or a different environment. And it was really really difficult to kind of not have her be ostracized because I saw it.
Yeah.
People don't want to talk to her anymore. Be like, don't want to listen to her anymore, and it was very very difficult to kind of mentor that person because how do you
Mm.
say like, I hear you, but you're coming on strong, you know? Like
Yeah.
people don't take well to that. And it's difficult, to get everybody on the team and say, hey, you're really you don't laugh at what she says or don't mock her or don't, like you're trying to be an inclusive environment, but like this person is really, I don't know, not reading the room, maybe is the right word for it. And that was difficult.
Did you see in that situation, did she adjust at all? Change and
She
see like what was happening to her and say, you know what, let me soften this a little bit. Let me try to adjust my communication at all just to kind of be a little bit more so people could be a little bit more receptive to that.
she did, but she took it extreme. So she stayed quiet then. So she wouldn't contribute at all. And so then that really tossed it back to me. And I'm like, all right, like, so I have to get her engaged in a conversation or what we're doing. So yeah, I mean, and that's really sometimes it's just not good. She got ostracized. I try to get everybody to include her again and just talk to her a little bit more. She stayed quiet, and that so that she took a different extreme. And
So
then
she
now
just
I'm trying
shut
to
down.
pull her back in. Right?
Mm.
It's a challenge. Like it really is, especially when you have somebody like she's very smart and brilliant. It's just it wasn't the right environment for what she was trying to push. Um. So yeah, well that's a challenge that I've experienced.
And that reminds me kind of how we were talking about authentic self because, she wanted to come off as knowledgeable, but what she was,
Yes.
a little pushy, maybe a little rude, aggressive. And it's like, well, let's read the room. That first time, ooh, swing and a miss. Let me dial it back a little bit and like kind of, hey, not be so forceful because then it comes off. If you just did it my way, everything will work out. It'll be fine. And it's like, look, you may be right 100% of the time, but if we're going to truly have an inclusive environment, it's not just one way. We want to
Mm,
let everyone have a time, chance to
yes.
speak, try everyone's idea, potentially at some point or another. It's just not one way. Because if that means if that's the case, then you just need bodies and you and everyone else can leave. And everyone just do it your way. It's like
Yeah.
you don't need anyone else.
Yeah. No,
So
you're right.
it's like just go and get some robots and you do everything and there you go. So and
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard for people. I see sometimes, or not. I don't see it so much. I hear it from others where they might have a person that always has to shine, always has to be
Mm,
seen, always has to talk. And I think
true.
when they're
Yeah.
at a certain level, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why do you feel the need to have to be that one all the time? Is this going back to you know, some issues you had earlier in life that it's like you constantly seeking, in my mind, it comes off like you're seeking attention. And it's
Yes.
like, why does it always have to be on you?
Mm.
Especially when you start to reach a certain level, it's like you're there.
Mm.
So why are you still like, to me, it's just that open and honest conversations, hard work, performance, that'll speak for itself. You don't
Yes.
have to talk your way into
Yes.
something. Just handle your business. Speak
Absolutely.
when the right opportunities. But to me, if you are truly authentic and genuine, things will happen.
Yes.
Things will happen.
100%, man. Like I'm such a believer of that, man. I just say, hey, when you get to a new position, new spot, just do your thing, continue performing well and being, kind of, your true self, I guess, but don't try to change
Yeah.
necessarily. I think people would eventually see that, So you're not grabbing attention. You're just like a lot of times I just go to a new job, keep my head down, do a good job, and then next thing you know, people are coming. They're like, "Oh, T, wow," And I think that's best. That's the best way. Like it's you're almost kind of expect setting the bar low, and all of a sudden like you're just killing it. But when you come in and talking, the bar is very high, and people just want to see you fail. That's
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah, you got to evaluate it because I know even with your comment, there could be people maybe that'll say, "No way, do the complete opposite. Come in there,
Yeah.
guns blazing, and see how it goes." Some people are just big talkers. They want to
Hmm.
go to the whoever's in charge, talk them up, and constantly, just
Yeah.
want to
Those
shine
people. You're
constantly,
right.
but really grasping for attention and
Mm.
look at me. And I do think the more natural approach will be fruitful because the proof is in the pudding. It's
Yep.
it'll be there, where you don't have to do that. But some people feel that that's the only way I'm gonna make it. Is
True.
it
Some
just
people do.
becomes like a hardwired tactic. I'm gonna do it every single time until I am, COO or CFO or whatever they're shooting for.
Yeah.
So from a corporate perspective, they're going to keep doing that.
That's
Um,
just a hard tactic, though. Oh
it
my
is,
God.
and to me, it can be exhausting. I wouldn't
It
see how
is.
you're not exhausted
Yeah.
by every waking moment, even to the point of, and I know some people are serious workaholics,
Hmm.
you know, constantly late nights, it's just nonstop. To me, it's just you're just wearing yourself down. Get organized, stay on top of your stuff. If you got a
Hmm.
plan ahead, then do that where your time is managed better. But you know, I don't think it's very like it's not sustainable. But some people will. Like they'll just keep going and they'll just be drained and just keep going. And I'm like,
Yeah,
how
that's
are
crazy
you
to me.
doing this? How are you doing
Yeah.
this? Okay. So how did the military teach you to unify diverse teams? And to me, you're always in a situation where you have diverse teams.
Yeah.
I don't know an opportunity. I mean, you have everyone from different states, different cultures, backgrounds. They could be from different
Yeah.
countries. So you
Yeah.
always have a melting pot in your squad, section, battalion, company. It's just always a mix. And so because you have to lead for those that are in the leadership positions, you have to lead a diverse group anyway. So you have to connect with that team, but it's also different because the soldiers know that I'm there to accomplish the mission. So everyone's signed up, but it's like, how do you establish a bond with diverse individuals? And that becomes something you learn in the military where, you know, you're pushing that one team. You want to be the best that you can be, and you're just pulling them always in. And I remember earlier on when I first joined and finally made, I think maybe the rank of sergeant. I had a small squad, and whenever we had an opportunity, whenever we get a mission that we had the opportunity where I can elicit feedback from the team, I'd say, here's what we got to do. What's the best way to get this done? Let's go around the room from the lowest to the highest next to me. You go first. What do you think we should do? What's your perspective? And I'd let everyone go around the room. And if we were at liberty, I would say, okay, I like so and so's idea. Let's go with that. Go ahead and tell us what we got to do. And that could be the lowest person on the team. And I think I shared this example before, and I did it before on a number of times, and I'll let them lead the way. And to me, it lifts them up.
Hell yeah.
It lets, this goes back to, I'm valuing everyone, giving everyone an opportunity to shine. No one's voice is higher or lower than the next. You never know who's going to have the best idea. Let's get it.
I especially love when you select like a really low ranking person's idea. I love that because like what I've seen in the situations like that is just like everybody like rallies around that person. Like, oh, like lowest ranking person, like we're gonna make sure you're successful, man. And like people get excited for it. And like
Yeah, because
that
they're like,
is
oh man, yeah.
yeah. Oh my god, I love that. Yeah, you're right. That's such a I love seeing that when a team just kind of gets together and like, work together because they're like they want to see this young person succeed.
Yeah.
That's when like people looking out for each other. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
And even in that instance, let's say the idea fell through, something didn't work out. Coming back as leader and said, you know what? No harm, no foul. We tried. Lesson
Hmm.
learned. It's going to happen to everybody. It was a
Hmm.
great idea. Something fell through the cracks. Don't let it discourage you. Jump right back in the next time. Even that response as a leader and not like coming down on the person because you trusted them. It's like, it's fine. Things may go wrong. If people fail, people mistakes, it happens to everyone. It's what we do, a response to it that makes a difference. Then we
Yep.
learn from it, we move on. That's it.
Yeah, you're right. Um, t- to go a little bit deeper on this question, like I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen cliques happen.
Mm,
Like in the army, whether it's a maybe sometimes like you see a specific state clique, like either a lot of people from New York, a lot of people from Texas, kind of get together. They get a little
yeah.
clicky. Even like racial cliques sometimes happen.
Mm,
Some whatever it is,
yeah.
maybe it's a language clique. Like
Hmm.
sometimes I've noticed that, and like you have to make an effort to really try to break it up a little bit, you know? Um, so like I was very mindful not to put the clicks like working near each other. Like I was like, all right, you guys got to separate.
Very true. Yeah. Got to break
Yeah,
them up.
more. Yeah, you got more people got to understand you and like know about you, and like otherwise, people just get comfortable in their little cliques and don't venture out, don't interact with anybody. So that's kind of something that the army has taught me to just kind of really force the diversity of thought among people because people just naturally, what's that saying goes? Birds of a feather stick together,
Yeah.
you know?
Flock together. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And so that's something that I've been extremely mindful. So like on a project, like I'll include like two separate groups of people, like one person from
Mm,
here, one person from there. I'm like, all right, you guys working together. And that's really it. At the end of the day, what I've noticed, no matter how clicky you are, like when you work with somebody that is extremely different from you, you're like, oh, this person's not really very different from me, because like now you get to know the person and like understand where they're coming from and like why they do
true.
things. And that's kind of how like I try to get a little bit of cohesion together. It's just yeah, sometimes you have to force it.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense because sometimes you have like those unconscious biases and
Mm,
perceptions of people
yeah,
because you not haven't spent enough time with them. You haven't
yeah,
talked to them. You haven't, because sometimes there's just judgments based on a multitude of things, and all you have to do is sit down and sometimes just break bread with the person,
yeah,
spend some time with them, and then you're like, oh
absolutely,
wow, I
yeah,
did not know. Oh, we have so many similarities and
yeah,
this and that, and so it's like just and for those out there listening and watching, maybe challenge yourself. That
hmm,
person, that teammate who you haven't really associated with, and just go to lunch. Just have some, have
that's
a
true.
meal and chat and see what comes of it. It could be nothing. Maybe nothing comes out of it. And you're like, well, same old thing, but maybe something will. So you never know.
That's a very good challenge. Like I think that's very cool actually. Yeah.
Yeah, why
Because I'm
not?
sure there's people at work now that we don't necessarily talk to, or at least I
Oh
don't.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
I should do that. Yeah. Good point.
All right. And I think we just talked about how we both have held ourselves responsible or accountable for inclusive leadership and things
Mm,
that we've done. And I think the challenge out to the audience is how are you holding yourself accountable to being an inclusive leader? What are those things that you do? And I would really love for people to put comments down, either if you're not in a leadership position yourself, have you been exposed to it when you have seen this is how someone I've seen this person ensure that people are included, or you as a leader, how are you ensuring that you're holding yourself accountable to for inclusive leadership? How are you getting that? So, what's the role of psychological safety and inclusion? I think this goes back to what you said a while back of setting expectations off the bat. Like you want people's voices to be heard. There's no right
yes.
or wrong
Yeah.
answers. I may seek you out, And I also think from a psychological safety perspective as a leader is if you're employing amongst, like if you have a team meeting, you got a couple direct reports, when someone says, you know what, I just don't like, and you say this is a safe space, you can talk. So first of all, saying this is a safe space, I
Mm-hmm.
want everyone to share freely. Like, please
Yep.
tell me what your opinion is, no matter what. And if someone says, well, you know what, Larry, I just didn't like the way you did this and that and the way this rolled out. So, okay, okay, I appreciate that. What about you? You feel the same way? And maybe they might say, yes, well, I think, all right, now it's open. Anyone else? Yeah, well, I think you could have been okay. What do you think I could have done better? Like how
Yeah.
could have I approached this better? Well, maybe if you and you taking notes as a leader. Okay, okay. All right, my commitment to you is that I will work on this. Now let me give you a little context. Maybe I wasn't at liberty, or it was like something that I had to make a decision right now. The pressure was on, but when we can, and we will, we'll talk about it. I'll try to consider these things next time.
Yeah.
Because now people know that you're not going to react a certain way because they're sharing their, you know, they didn't agree with you or something
Mm-hmm.
upset them or whatever. They feel that
Mm-hmm.
you will value our voice no matter what, not just the good. You will take the bad, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay because at the end of the day, you're gonna say, okay, great. Like, and let's say if it was a real difficult conversation, maybe some emotions came out and you're like, okay, everybody, let's take a breath. We come. How about we go for a walk? Let's go step outside. Let's just get some fresh air. How about we meet down there? Like, or
Yeah.
hey, let's go to lunch after. Like, it's like you take it and you just move on. You keep moving, where it's not like, all right, I didn't like the way you did this. Okay, I appreciate it. And now you just like, again, they're on my shit list now. I'm not going to talk to them again. I don't want to talk to them. Maybe they made me feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm not just going to avoid them. You don't want to do that.
No.
That's from my perspective. What do you think, T?
No, I think you're right. I think like those everything you said is like before your example is like, yeah, I think it was spot on. I like that, where you try to pull somebody to give feedback in that scenario you gave. I think it's once you do that and you don't overreact, I think then it's like, oh, okay, then the floodgates open. You're like, oh, this is really cool. This is a safe space. But yeah, you definitely have to say right up front, say this is a safe space. See what you got to say. But yeah, I think you're right. Encourage everybody to talk. No negative repercussions, for speaking your mind. So yeah, no, nothing to add really. It's good.
And let me, one thing I thought about, I had an employee, like, because we were focusing on being a high performing team. It was part of the
Mm-hmm.
things for our, reaching that level and not really just saying we want to be a high performing team, but what by the book makes up a high performing team, which one is
Mm,
trust. And I
yeah.
said, do we trust one another? Let's go around the room. If there's any feelings of a lack of trust, let's share it.
Ooh.
And one of my employees said, you know what? Earlier on, your boss, meaning my boss, said, hey, how are you doing? And I was new to the team and I basically vocalized like you didn't know something, but I didn't realize that you actually just did not know. Like you had zero exposure. And she kind of spun it as if like I'm not meeting expectations from that perspective. But then she realized that, oh, you actually just did not know. Like you had no clue. Like you had never worked with it, no perspective. You're learning just like everyone else. And that was
Mm,
my bad because I did not like talk to you and ask. And I'm sorry for that. Later said, like, oh, you know what? Larry just didn't know. That was my bad. So now if I'm like, hey, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad that
that's really impressive.
I've earned your trust.
Yeah.
I did not get offended at all.
Yeah.
Where you could have some leaders like, what? You did what? And now, oh, I see how you are. She came to me, she was open, and she's like, and at that point, she realized I know this is psychologically safe space because I
Yes.
just came to you and said that, and you were just like,
Oh yeah.
okay, I appreciate you, because I'm telling you, I'm not one to. I mean, some things I definitely trip over, but it's plenty of things I'm just like, I'm not gonna trip over.
Yeah, no, I mean that's impressive because like she knows in her head is like, yeah, I went to your boss and told your boss that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
I mean like, oh man, I don't think I would even admit that to anybody in any kind of space. That's pretty
yeah,
impressive. She trusts you then. So that's awesome. That's great.
yeah, yeah. And so the final one: how do you measure progress and inclusion efforts? And thinking about
Mm,
this, the measure piece. I mean, the first thing that stands out is surveys, like when they
okay.
come out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's depending on the survey, sometimes they're kind of loaded where you're kind of leaning towards the more positive. But I think if it can highlight the leader and you get that feedback, or sometimes it's recognition where,
Mm,
there might be a form of like, who do you want to recognize and for what? And you might
mm,
have a few employees speak out about how you've made it a safe space or you allow for this, you do this or that. So I think those kind of things can stand out. Not that you specifically want to go out there and measure it,
mm.
but I guess those more organic ways that you would get that feedback to say that I am being inclusive with the team I
Yeah. I mean, like to me, it's a works environment. It's a safe work environment when like the lowest person is comfortable to talk to the highest person, whether it's on a team, in a company, or whatever,
have.
because there's no fear of punishment or whatever,
Yeah,
they feel like their voice is heard and can be heard, and it's okay to voice it, you know?
yeah, true.
If I'm the lowest person talking to the, chief, whatever, I'm not going to be judged. They're going to hear me. My voice is heard as well. So I think that's one way that I've noticed. Um, how you kind of measure progress, or like
Yeah,
maybe ideas are not laughed at or judged, That's another way to measure. Like, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't really the best idea, but
yeah,
nobody made fun of it. Yeah, and then it's okay.
yeah. All right. Anything else?
No, that's it, brother.
All right. Well, as always, we thank you for tuning in to Command the Corporate. If today's episode gave you value, do us a favor as always, share with a colleague or teammate who's ready to step into leadership, or for those that are existing leaders. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and connect with us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts for more leadership insights and resources. And until next time, lead with clarity, lead with purpose, and always remember mission first, people always. We'll catch you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.